To always get the latest Game Tea, do not forget to follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at The Game Tea Podcast, and you can find us on Twitter at Game Tea Podcast X. We post memes, gaming news, retweet friends of the pod, and of course let you know when new episodes are available for your listening pleasure. Links are all available in the description of this episode, so check them out after the show, and thank you so much for listening to the Game Tea Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Game Tea Podcast. My name is JP.
I'm Peaches.
And I'm Czar.
All right, so today is an interesting episode. We are doing Tales from the Backlog. I love this segment, and it's interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, the first time you ever heard Peach's wonderful voice was actually in a throwback from an episode of Tales from the Backlog, right, Peaches?
Yeah, the crazy thing about that is I was super confused when Zach called me.
I'm sure you were.
Because first of all, who calls people anymore? Obviously, just right off the bat.
Your phone was ringing, you're like, what is that sound?
But like, second of all, my hearing is just generally bad, especially when like I'm on the phone talking to somebody. And so Zach is like asking me these questions. He's asking me if it's okay if like, you know, you guys use the recording of my voice, etc. And I had no idea what I was agreeing to because I didn't actually hear what Zach said. But I was just like, yeah, sure, that's fine.
Ha! Verbal contract, bitch.
You're in now.
So yeah, you guys got me on that one. But and then when I went back and listened to the episode later, I was furious.
Octopath Traveler!
And why? Why were you furious, Peaches?
Well, as listeners of the show may remember, Mass Effect 2 was one of the games up to be played. I believe it was Mass Effect 2, Octopath Traveler,
and Red Dead
Redemption 2. Yep. Somehow, in all of that mess, fucking Octopath Traveler ends up beating at Mass Effect 2 as the game JP would play from his backlog. And I will forever be salty about it.
Lols.
I didn't even finish Octopath Traveler.
You cheated.
You cheated. It's an 80-hour game.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't have put it on the list. And we came to that consensus because, well, we couldn't actually form a consensus, so we had to go back and change the rules to the game itself so that if there was a tie and a split between opinions on what game a certain person should play, then they play the game that didn't get chosen.
Exactly.
It was just simple math, Peaches.
We're sorry.
We're sorry. We're sorry.
We're sorry.
I just hope you guys can live with the fact that JP may never play Mass Effect now because of that.
That's honestly true because the backlog's getting bigger and bigger, but that is the point of this game. As a little refresher, in Tales from the Backlog, each one of the hosts pick out 3 games that they have backlogged in total, and they will give a short description of each game and why they backlogged it in the first place. And then the other 2 hosts have to come to a mutual agreement of which of those 3 games is going to be the host's next play. Like Czar just alluded to, if we simply cannot agree to disagree, they have to play the game that didn't get voted on in the first place. So, no shenanigans, boys. I know we love shenanigans, but we've got backlogs to get through.
How great would it be if one of us phoned Zach for his opinion?
Ooh, man.
Really just send things full circle.
Oh, if it gets to it, it'd be so funny to call Zach. That's a great idea, actually. All right, we'll see if it comes to that, but today's order is going to be Czar, and then Peaches, and then yours truly. So Czar, without further ado, get into the list. Let's talk about the games.
Alrighty, the first game that is haunting my backlog is Outlast 2.
You haven't played Outlast 2?
Oh, I've played a little bit of it. I played about 3 to 4 hours of it, but kind of put it down from there. Not sure why, as many of these backlog games go. I tend to start them and then never finish them. But that's what's great about this segment is because I'll be able to finish one of them. to start off, I bought Outlast 2 a few years ago because, well, it's obviously a fantastic horror game. I mean, come on.
Outlast was revolutionary in that horror genre, man. I mean, that game was a big deal.
Oh, yeah. No, Red Barrels really killed it, knocked it out of the park with this horror genre. It is terrifying. Fantastic horror game, one reason I got it. But also my roommate at the time had just finished it and thought it would be hilarious to watch me poop myself because of how scary this game is, as we alluded to. For those that don't enjoy frequent panic attacks, Outlast 2 is where players will take on the role of a loving, albeit useless husband named Blake in search of his wife, Lynn. With the opening scene, the married investigative journalists get separated in a helicopter crash somewhere in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Arizona. Not a fun place to be, let me tell you. On their way to Arizona, they were researching information about the murder of a pregnant teenager being somehow related to possible cult activity. Well, it turns out their lead was right, because a religious cult does have murderous influence in the area, and they are led by a sadistic son of a bitch known as Preacher Papa Noth. Now, I'm not even going to go into details about what makes this villain extra grotesque, because it's not exactly NSFW. But I will tell you that Papa Noth makes finding Lynn a bit more than obvious, yet really complicates getting to her. I mean, I'll let you guys guess on where she could be. She's either in the creepy, dilapidated chapel, at home listening to the Game Tea podcast, or sitting on the beach in the Bahamas. And I'll give you a hint, she's not in the Bahamas.
Oh, good. We got another fan.
Yeah, all right.
Sadly, she is not a Game Tea podcast fan, but she damn well should be.
All right, yeah, this game's already out. I don't know. It's over.
It's done. No, never playing this game. Not a fan of the Game Tea podcast. Done. Anywho, so Lynn is actually less than safe in the hands of the cultists. So now you know where she is. But how do you get to her? Well, the answer, my friends, unfortunately, is stealth. Sneaking.
Oh, you hate stealth. That's why this has been backlogged, because you have no fight mechanics. It's stealth.
Yeah, that's probably, that is definitely a really big reason of why I did not struggle through this game. Although I did end up beating the very first Outlast with a group of my old roommates when we lived together back in college. But, you know, we fought as a team, and then the biggest roommate, Jaeger, discovered that he could just charge at the monsters, and they were so confused about the small, scrawny protagonist rushing them that they would never attack us.
Nani?
Nani?
Was that the real reason why you backlogged Outlast 2? Was because of the sneaking mechanics?
Yes and no. Definitely heavy on the sneaking mechanics, which I really don't like. But also, I really like sharing a group experience of a horror game, or really any deeply narrative, beautiful, and story-driven game. I like to share that in a group. Hence why I kind of had a YouTube channel, you know? I mean, I know it's still me just recording in a room by myself, but it's the shared reaction of an experience that I love with horror games. But yeah, so that's kind of why I backlogged it. And yeah, what else is there to say other than you can't kill the monsters? Unfortunately, the protagonist has -5 useful skills when it comes to survival, so...
And the worst battery finding skills ever. Why are all these batteries like a quarter of the way full still?
Not only that, but why the hell are there even batteries there? There's not a single electrical device in the whole fucking village.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's pitchforks. And
battery-powered pitchforks.
Don't even get me started on the fact that there are sharp instruments littered throughout every inch of the area where you will traverse. And your guy's just like, no, I'll stick with my camera. I'm fine. I don't need a sharp sickle or pitchfork or even a lit torch to my aid.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But that really is what makes Outlast special, is the fact that you don't have a way to fight back. It really, I know that it doesn't make sense in the world, but
But that's what makes it more relatable because, throw yourself into this situation. You wouldn't be that useful either. And so, I think it's rather generous that this game gives you a camera with a night vision option and an easily concealable body type. It's pretty damn easy to hide. And apparently if you just crouch in some grass that's like chin high, then nobody's going to see you.
Where'd he go?
Where'd he go? But yeah, so overall, general simplistic synopsis of this game. You videotape the scary shit, you hide in barrels of piss, and hope to hell that nobody sees you. You're not fast, you're not strong, okay? You're just scared and alone, and it's stressful. It's just so stressful.
And apparently, they're not a fan of the Game Tea podcast, which is a pretty big downside to go with all those other things as well.
Well spoken. Well said.
0 out of 10.
0 out of 10.
But yeah, so that's Outlast.
What else you got?
All right, so in the era of this segment that we do here, since we've only done it once, the last thing that we do before we move on to the second option of games is we go over the Metascore and user score taken from Metacritic.com.
Oh, I forgot that was a part of this.
Yep, we get to look up the score. So we have like a numerical comparison on the games that we're choosing. But we're not getting into any of the comments. We're just leaving it at the score and moving on, because that's an entirely different segment.
Fair enough. Yes, it is.
So the Metacritic score given to Outlast 2 was a pretty solid 77, with a user score being a not so solid 6.6.
Yeah, but they were probably comparing it more to the first game, and it's like, I'd agree that Outlast 2 isn't as good as Outlast 1, because I have played both. But, that is a little low.
Yeah, I did say we weren't going to get into any of the comments, but I was curious about the really low rating comparatively from users to paid critics.
Yeah.
And much of what you just said, JP, is the main complaints, is they're comparing it to the first game, and it's like a copy and paste of the first game, and it just gets really tedious by the end, and there's not enough new aspects to make it interesting. Which I kind of get, but it's a sequel in a horror game franchise that of a studio that's still kind of early on, so I'll give it its fair shakes.
Alright, what do you got next?
So, next game on my list is Resident Evil 2, the remake.
You haven't played the remake? You're the... What?
Yeah.
You're the biggest Resident Evil fan I know.
I have played the remake. I own both 2 and 3 remakes, but... And I'll kind of get into this in a second, because I'm going to keep the Resident Evil one short, because I feel like at this point I don't really need to explain why I picked up this game. Just simply, I'm a huge fan of the series for most of my life, and it's a fantastic remake that was good enough to be nominated for Game of the Year, so I suppose we'll just leave it at that.
It is. I've played this too. Fantastic.
And so that brings me into my experience with this game, and if you have played the game and you know anything about the Resident Evil franchise, there are multiple stories that you play as, and alongside the main character, the main front and center character, there's always a supporting partner character that has a set of story to go on. And in this case, the front and center character, players will be taking on the role of Leon S. Kennedy and what happens on his first day of being a police officer in Raccoon City.
Mm-hmm.
After you beat Leon's campaign, you unlock Claire's campaign. Claire Redfield, as many of the fans of the Resident Evil series would know, is the little sister of the main protagonist from the very first game, Chris Redfield. So that's already pretty cool and already pretty canonical. And yeah, what's there to say more about the description of Resident Evil other than it's a fantastically polished, beautiful third-person over the camera, or third-person over the shoulder horror game with a lot of gunplay, inventory management, and really was the cusp of what it meant to be a survival horror game. So, like I said before, I played through, beat Leon's story, got about halfway through Claire's story and put it down, and didn't even make it past the 2 extra unlockable stories past when you beat the main characters originally, is their extended story to actually finish the game, which is possibly a reason I put the game down, because of how tedious it is to beat the game 4 different times just to see the whole story.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not getting a very good case to make this the game, but I also haven't heard the last one yet or the critic score, so...
That's very true. This game, although I have not said too much about it today, is very important to me and should and deserves to be on this list because of my innate fascination and obsession with the Resident Evil series. Like, your reaction to me not beating this game was like, what? How?
Yeah, exactly.
You are the expert. So yeah, I need to go back to this game, and well, maybe you guys will pick it. Anywho, the Metacritic score for Resident Evil 2 Remake on the Xbox One, I should specifically add, because for whatever reason it's different across PC and PlayStation. Anywho, the Metacritic score is 93 with a user score of 8.6. So pretty solid game there.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah, that's a pretty heavy-hitting game. Anywho, moving on to the last title on my list for Tales of the Backlog is Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2. You guys may find this a little bit familiar because avid listeners will notice that this game was actually on my list the first time from Tales of the Backlog. Or more specifically, the prequel to this game, Lords of Shadow 1.
Uh-huh.
Look, if you're trying to sway the opinion of the court, I'm letting you know right now it's not working. I will stay unbiased on all 3 of these games.
Order!
Oh God, please do. I don't want this last one picked. There's a reason why it came up twice.
Then why'd you put it in here?
I started it because it was a free games with gold before the first game, not the second. Never finished it. Went on Tales from the Backlog. And JP and Zach chose that for me to play next. So I beat it, jumped into the second game, which I incidentally got for free with Xbox Games with Gold.
Okay.
So whole series for free, which is nice.
That's nice.
But I never made it more than like an hour and a half into it because it was so tedious and very dated. In this fully 3D sequel to a Castlevania reboot, players take on the role of Dracula himself, who wakes up about 1,000 years after the first game took place. And yep, the player starts the game exactly where they ended the first game, but much like a character left AFK, Dracula has also been sitting for 1,000 years, starving himself and brooding over things he can't change.
Interesting.
So, what prompts this perfect image of an angsty teenager to get up off his ass? Well, apparently Satan is back and rather pissed off that you whooped his ass in the first game, which brings us to the classic action-adventure formula that they present to us.
Mm-hmm.
From basically starting with a starved bitch boy Dracula and eating your way across a modern landscape to build yourself up to be a badass. I mean, we've seen this formula before. We've seen a lot of platforming mixed with fixed camera angles in the late 2000s, kind of dwindling into the 2010s, which this game came out in 2014 or something, so it feels really dated for the year that it actually came out. Aside from that, this game boasts an open world comparatively to the first game, which just means that there's an underground sewer system that takes you to different sections of your castle, as well as the rest of the city, but provides you no useful map or fast travel options, so you don't really know where the fuck you're actually going.
Oh, that's a bunch of baloney.
Yeah, no, it's super frustrating and it sucks. All of those annoyances aside, the brief time I played it, I thought it was fun. I mean, the story's compelling. I finished the first story, loved that. And it's always fun to see the plethora of grotesque monsters packed into the Castlevania franchise.
Absolutely.
They do classic Frankenstein monster movie lore pretty well.
All right, what about the Metacritic score?
Well, unfortunately, we have, I guess, not as low a score as the first game, but for a critic score, we have a 70, and a user score, we have a 7.8. Yeah, kind of mediocre, but not bad. Like I said, a lot of fun. Backlogged because there were better things.
Okay. So it's time to get into the discussion of which one of these games Czar should play next. So, Peaches, I want you to take the first word on what you're thinking here, because to me, there's an obvious choice, but I want to hear what you think.
All right, well, let's just get the elephant in the room out of the way. I think Czar fucking hates Castlevania Lords of Shadow too, huh?
Oh yeah, it really sounds like he does.
I'm gonna go ahead and eliminate that one out of hand.
Okay, good choice. I was thinking of the exact same thing. But I think these last two games between Outlast 2 and Resident Evil 2 are going to yield a pretty good conversation. So what do you think about that?
There's one thing that stuck out to me when the Outlast 2 conversation was going on, where you guys said it's essentially a rehash of the first Outlast game. And to me, that typically means, it's not treading any new ground. It doesn't really stand as a game on its own without looking at the predecessor. And so for that reason, I would go look at Resident Evil 2 Remake, as tons of people are really excited about that game. And I mean, you guys said it was nominated for some Game of the Year awards, so I feel like that's the standout contender here among these three games.
Yeah, I don't want to sway any opinion either way, but I have been waiting to actually even start Resident Evil 3's remake until I beat Resident Evil 2, and have recently been co-oping Resident Evil 5 with a buddy of mine.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a you problem, Czar, if I'm being honest with you.
Sounds like a me having a great time.
I'm biased in this because at first I really wanted it to be Outlast 2, and obviously I want good conversation for the podcast, but if I were to make a case for Outlast 2, it would be this. The Outlast series in general is very influential on the horror genre and added a lot of mechanics that are used in more modern horror games, I've noticed. But that exact same argument could be applied to Resident Evil, and in fact probably applies more to Resident Evil. So, even though I want to say Outlast 2 because I enjoyed that game, I also really enjoyed Resident Evil 2 Remake. It's one of Czar's favorite series. I can't believe he hasn't played it yet. So, I hate to say it, but I am also going with Resident Evil 2 Remake.
This feels like it was too easy. Can we add some controversy in here?
Czar smells.
Somebody give Zach a call.
No, Zach doesn't get an opinion. He hasn't heard of any of these games.
Give Zach a call to also get him to agree.
Zach would be like, ring-a-ding-ding. Hello? What are the three options? Tell him to play World of Warcraft. Click. That's literally how the conversation would go. All right, Czar. I know, I kind of wanted more conflict there too, but I mean, I simply can't disagree with you there, Peaches. It's got to be Resident Evil 2.
Well, when you know. I'm okay with that. Guess I'll be playing Resident Evil 2 next.
Dude, you're gonna enjoy it. It was like a year ago when I played it, but it was a lot of fun. That Titan in HD.
Like I said, I beat Leon's campaign. His first campaign, and got partly into Claire's, but never got the extended director's cut special story.
Well, there you go. That was the only other thing that was holding me back from choosing Resident Evil, is I'm like, he's played it, just not with the super extended secret shortcut thing.
Yeah, but to that extent, I also 100%ed Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, where you play as the Umbrella agents who caused the zombie outbreak. So, I mean, I already know everything that's happening behind the scenes with all of the bonus story that they include.
Exactly, and that was part of why I almost wanted to give it to Outlast. It's how much more is he really going to get out of playing Resident Evil 2, the remake? But honestly, the answer is a good amount, so I'm confident in giving you that.
I like to shoot the monsters and not film the monsters, which I guess is also considered shooting.
It was a monster mash.
Czar was quietly pulling the strings from the shadows so that we would end up picking Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Played like a damn fiddle.
With very little conflict. Yes, the puppet master.
Peaches, my man. I believe it is your turn.
So, for my Tales from the Backlog, the first game on the list, only recently got backlogged as I purchased it because it was on sale like about 3 weeks ago. The game is called Spiritfarer from Thunder Lotus Games. Spiritfarer, I just took the description from the Steam store. It is a cozy management game about dying. You play as Fairy Master Stella to ferry the deceased to the afterlife. You build your boat, explore the world, befriend and care for spirits before releasing them into the afterlife.
Yeah.
Farm, mine, fish, harvest, cook, and craft your way across mystical seas.
That sounds heavenly.
Oh.
Me and Czar actually were talking about it before we started recording. Like, I heard about this game initially from a game reviewer that we're both interested in, Zero Punctuation. And I bought it off of his recommendation. And, I mean, I meant to play it right away, but it got backlogged pretty quick because, you know, I'm just playing the games that I have played for a very long time.
So that's really the only reason why it got backlogged is just more things like took precedent, or...
I mean, what's there to say about things getting backlogged? We've all experienced it. Things just, one thing comes to another and things get thrown on the back burner. Not necessarily that you hated the game, you just kind of found something else to waste your time on for a while.
You know what, that's fair.
I expected to play this game right away, but I just, like, you know, you get to your computer and you launch it up and you're like, oh, well, I got this new game, or I could just keep playing Rocket League.
Or I could just say fuck all that nonsense and keep playing Rocket League.
On to the review scores. Metacritic gave this a 82 critic review and a 8.1 for the user review. And something that I found notable while I was looking at it is that there was very few reviews for this game. Like, there was a total of 16 critic reviews and a total of 21 user reviews.
Wow, that is not a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it kind of works both ways for it. So, like, a few positive reviews go a long way, but a few negative reviews also go a long way in affecting that score.
Interesting stuff. That is wild.
But yeah, I mean, I don't got much else to say on that. Have anything else to add before I move on to the next game?
Spiritfarer is a very interesting game. If I'm not mistaken, it caught my eye during one of Nintendo's Directs, and I thought that of all the games in that Direct, that's one of the ones that definitely stuck out to me as something that I would personally play. And in those regards, I actually see where you and I kind of have overlap in some more of those, like, indie, like, more out there type titles. Something that Czar, or especially Zach, would never get into. It's something I've got in common with you, though.
Honestly, like, this game, when I was looking at it, it gave me Stardew Valley vibes, like, just from, like, the general playstyle of the game.
Yep.
You know, looking at it, that's kind of what initially struck my interest, but, you know, the whole idea about the game, you know, like, you're ferrying spirits to the afterlife, kind of is just an interesting concept as a storytelling device, and I was curious to see where it went, and...
Certainly.
Got backlogged right away.
All right. What do you got next?
Next up, this one is definitely not even close to in the same vein as that one. This one is Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor.
Shadow of Mordor, huh?
Ooh, that's kind of an old one.
Yep, that's way back in 2014.
No, it hasn't been that long already, has it?
Oh, buddy.
Oh, I
hate to be the one to tell you.
No, I just remembered seeing this come out. No.
Now, hold on. Maybe this isn't as bad. They did recently release Shadow of War, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
So, I mean, that could be the confusion here because they're very close titles.
No, it's not even that. Because I remember when I was in college with Czar and this first came out, I remember his roommate playing it. I remember. That felt like just yesterday.
Yeah, our dorm was all about that Shadow of Mordor.
I hate to be the one giving you the wake-up call.
Do you? Do you, though?
I mean.
All right. Just keep going with your stupid thing.
All right, so just going to keep doing descriptions from the Steam store here. So you fight through Mordor and uncover the truth of the spirit that compels you. Discover the origins of the Rings of Power, build your legend, and ultimately confront the evil of Sauron in this new chronicle of Middle-earth. Kinda what happened on this game is this game came out as I started shifting more towards PC gaming. Like, I had already been playing League of Legends for a couple years, so I was pretty deep into PC gaming in that way. But I still went to my console for games like this. And I mean, I started it on Xbox One and eventually just tabled it and never got back to it because I ended up playing League of Legends for far too many hours.
That makes sense.
And I rebought it on Steam sale. I rebought it on Steam sale 2 or 3 years ago. And I used the excuse, I want to play this game on a controller, so I'm not going to play it until I have a controller to play it on. And I've had a controller for about 1.5 years now, and I still haven't gone back to it.
I'm sick of you and your lies, Peaches.
If you guys got anything else to add before I get to the review scores? Any thoughts so far?
Not really. I've heard that this is a really good game.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what drew me to it initially, is I love Lord of the Rings. I mean, I will never compete with any like huge Lord of the Rings fans on knowing things, because those people have read the books, watched the movies, read like the extra book, The Silmarillion, and I am not going to mess with those people, but I love Lord of the Rings as a movie fan, and maybe one day I'll read the books and get into that arena, but for now I love the movies, and that's what initially drew the interest in this game, because the universe of Middle-earth is incredible.
Absolutely.
They're called elves with a V, not elves. At Santa's house.
It's like, thank you!
Yeah, someone out there is really glad you made the distinction. Anywho, the reviews for this game, it's got an 84 on Metacritic, with the 84 as the critic score, and a 7.9 user score. So a bit of a differentiation there.
Actually, that's not terrible. That's not terrible at all. And you know what? Actually, from what we've seen from doing this time and time again, is like, the more consistent the user score is with like the critic score, you've got like a higher chance that it's going to be a better quality game, in my opinion. Just something I've noticed from us yelling at Metacritic for hours on end.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not as big of a discrepancy as you'd see in some other more controversial games. Like, I think Last of Us 2 had a pretty big issue with Metacritic for a while, and I think that's sort of evening out now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We don't got to get into that right now, but yeah, it definitely could be worse.
All right, what's the final guy?
All right, the last one is a bit of an old classic. It is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. Way back in 2005, that game was released.
Ooh.
Yeah.
5 years after the events of Knights of the Old Republic, the Sith Lords have hunted the Jedi to the edge of extinction. And a little personal side note there, that seems to happen frequently in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like every 1,000 years or so.
They've hunted them to the edge of extinction and are on the verge of crushing the Old Republic. With the Jedi Order in ruin, the Republic's only hope is a lone struggling Jedi to reconnect with the Force. As this Jedi, you will be faced with the galaxy's most dire decision: follow the light side or succumb to the dark. I initially played this game when I beat Knights of the Old Republic a few years ago. And I don't know what happened. I love Knights of the Old Republic 1. I played that until I beat it to like about as completion as I could be, because I'm a little baby and I can never do like the dark side choices. So I completed it in the sense that I did everything I could that I could do while being like on the light side.
While being a light side user, you know what? I understand.
Yeah, so I was as completionist as I could be with Knights of the Old Republic 1. And I immediately came to this game, and I don't know what happened, but I played for like, I want to say 2 hours, and I was like, that's all for me, and then I never came back to it.
Interesting. Okay. You've got quite a really good list here. I'm excited to debate about this one.
And one thing I thought was interesting, real quick note for Knights of the Old Republic 2, apparently, so Knights of the Old Republic 1 was made by BioWare, while Knights of the Old Republic 2, apparently it was made by Obsidian, who, you know, you'll know from like Fallout New Vegas and The Outer Worlds.
And Grounded.
Oh,
and
that's true, Grounded.
4 other new games this year.
Yeah.
I never realized that.
Yeah, I was surprised when I was doing research on this game that like they switched developers for the sequel. I don't know. I was pretty surprised. Fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
All right, what about the Metacritic score?
So for the Metacritic score, we got a 85 as the critic score, And 8.5 as the user score, funnily enough.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, that's as clean as it gets.
All right, JP, what are you thinking on games that Peaches should play?
Oh, this really is a hard list. He's got a lot of really good stuff here. And I think in my mind, part of what's making it challenging is like, I almost, with Tales of the Backlog, even though I know this isn't how you're supposed to judge it, go like instinctively, I'm like, okay, well, which one of these is the oldest game? But which would be Knights of the Old Republic 2 in this case. But like, I'm going to be honest, I'm leaning more towards Spiritfarer in this case.
Really?
Yeah, I am. The reason being is like Knights of the Old Republic 2. Look, I don't know much about the Knights of the Old Republic series yet, but I have heard, generally speaking, people have enjoyed the first one much more than they did the second. So, I feel like he's not missing out on a whole lot with Knights of the Old Republic 2 in that sense. Again, I might be completely wrong about that, but what I do know for a fact is that Spiritfarer also caters to his tastes in a pretty profound way. And he's right. If he did like games like Stardew Valley, this is going to speak to him on that different kind of level. I almost feel like, Spiritfarer is going to give you more of that like emotional type of journey that sometimes you can be looking for. And that's why I'd rather see Spiritfarer over Knights of the Old Republic 2. And Middle-earth's Shadow of Mordor is a great choice on that list too, but Spiritfarer.
Well, we got some discussion here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I figured we would. I know that's not a popular opinion. What are you thinking?
So I agree with your stance on Knights of the Old Republic 2. Yes and no. It's a game that you wouldn't be missing out on a lot if you played the first but didn't play the second, because yeah, truthfully, you are missing out on a lot. The second game was phenomenal. Was it exactly like the first game? Well, obviously not, with how Peaches just said that it was done by a different game developer. Mm-hmm. But it, at the same time, like, it is so engrossing and it just builds on everything that made the first game incredible. However, I still don't think that it should necessarily be picked for Tales from the Backlog, considering all of the surging rumors from this year and the previous year about a remaster of the first and second KOTORs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you might get a revamped experience with the KOTORs in the near future. So I think we can table that. However, my vote is for Shadow of Mordor, because that game, if you like The Lord of the Rings and you are engrossed with beyond the Hobbit culture of the series, like, this game is for you. This game is so deep into Mordor, you are basically in the ass end of a troll. And it is so much fun, between the RPG elements of leveling up your character to literally materialize 40 feet ahead of him to choke out an orc, only to disappear and go kill 3 more within like 5 seconds.
Well, Peaches, it looks like you're playing Octopath Traveler.
Yeah.
No, you son of a bitch. That's never happening ever.
Looks like you gotta buy and play Octopath Traveler.
So, that is a good point. Let me ask you this, Peaches. Are you a huge fan of RPG elements?
I mean, a huge fan. I get, like, most of the games that I play that aren't competitive games are generally RPGs. Well, I guess that's not even necessarily true. But yeah, I tend to favor like a customizable like RPG experience. Yeah.
So here's a question, and based on your answer, I'll probably cater like which one I think you should go with, and I'll debate some more with Czar. What is the rest of your gaming lineup looking like right now? What are a couple of your other games?
Okay, so games that I'm in the middle of, well, I started up another playthrough on Divinity Original Sin 2.
Okay.
I am playing World of Warcraft a smidgen, like, not a ton. I mean, I think I kind of burned myself out on that, and, Zach is way ahead of me now, so no catching up to that.
Oh, yeah, that's how it goes.
But actually, what I've been playing the most recently has been Minecraft and Rocket League.
Minecraft too, huh?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Minecraft. I got some buddies going on Minecraft, and I got a little Minecraft realm. It's a fun time.
I don't know where you're going with that question, JP, but that doesn't really help me make my decision.
What I was going for is when I'm playing a variety of games, what I like is, variety. What I was seeing is like, what else is he playing right now? Like, based on what he's playing, would it make more sense for him to have a, like if he were in the middle of fighting games all the time, would it make more sense to give him an option where he has a chance to veg out with Spiritfarer? Or if he's playing things that are more calm, would it make sense to give him something a little more edgy and fun like Shadow of Mordor? And the truth is, he's got a really even palette right now. That didn't help me at all either.
Glass of plain water here.
Although if you're suggesting that you're playing more of Minecraft and more of Rocket League, my needle would probably tip over to Middle Earth. I'd probably be okay with letting you do that next.
Czar, any thoughts?
I agree. I'm still sticking with Middle Earth.
Yeah,
I really
he's switching to Spiritfarer.
Reverse Uno, bitch! But no, I really like the notion, especially when you're playing a game like Minecraft or Rocket League, having a nice outlet for a story option. So, you can go start to finish from this game, and it's not just endless cycles of the same thing over and over.
Czar, you got Resident Evil 2 Remake. Peaches, you've got Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor. It's JP's turn.
All right.
A little bit like Czar, I also have a theme on my list, and I'm going to see if you guys can see what it is. So, fun story. I bought all 3 of these games from gift card money. Do you remember that surgery that I got back in December? All of our listeners will remember.
Yeah.
My bandmates surprised me one night by giving me $100 to use on video games, right? And that night, I spent it on Cyberpunk, and I also spent it on 2 other games that are on this list. And then I've got one more game that I bought from a sale. So, shout out to my bandmates. Those guys are awesome.
Shout out to the bandmates, but also, can I go ahead and just pick Cyberpunk?
I played Cyberpunk.
Do it again. What do you mean?
Fuck, you're right. Game over. Roll the credits.
Lols.
Okay. So first game on this list is Ghost of Tsushima.
After all of your hype.
Wow. JP. Oh my gosh. I remember talking to you about this game. Oh my gosh. Right when this game came out, I was playing this and talking to you, and I can't even remember what you were in the middle of.
Okay, so here's the funny thing. My younger brother adores this game. And almost every day, he's like, hey, when are you going to play Ghost of Tsushima? And I always look at him and I put my hand up and I go, I'm working on it. Every day. Well, it's time to live up to that. So no, it's a PlayStation 4 exclusive, known as probably one of the strongest in the series, but no, I have not played Ghost of Tsushima. So, real quick synopsis. Ghost of Tsushima is an action-adventure stealth game played from a third-person perspective. The game features a large open world without waypoints, which can be explored without guidance. Players can travel to different parts of the world on horseback. An item that acts as a grappling hook is available to access difficult-to-reach areas. The game features side quests and non-playable characters with which the player can interact. So, look. Ghost of Tsushima is just another addition to the amazing PlayStation lineup of amazing exclusives. If you like samurai, you're gonna like this game. If you like stealth, you're gonna like this game. If you love a beautiful world, a good story, amazing characters, you're gonna love this game. And the worst part is I know these things, and I don't know why it just keeps getting shoved to the backlog. You know how it goes.
I seriously don't understand how this game is on your backlog, especially considering we voted for it in several categories in the Game Awards.
You're absolutely right.
And you hyped it up while playing it several times. Like, how far did you make it into the game?
An hour.
Oh.
An hour. Listen, okay, truth be told, I did hype it up more off of, like, the recommendations of friends. And that hour, look, in fairness to me, that hour is very revealing of like how beautiful the world is. Didn't get much into the story, but like I could tell it was going to be magical, and then for one reason or another, I just put it off.
All right, so real quick, I gotta be honest. I think the story of Ghost of Tsushima is it's a weaker story generally speaking.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter because like the story of the game is just kind of what gets you going. Like it's really like the gameplay and like the fun of it that keeps you engaged in it. And also, I do know why you did not play this game when it came out. It's because all of you dorks were playing Paper Mario.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember. I haven't finished that either.
No regrets.
No. Paper Mario. That was a good game. I should finish that.
Oh my god.
So Ghost of Tsushima doesn't need much more of an introduction. Metacritic gave it a critic score of 83 and a user score of a 9.2. It's a really solid game, guys. And I mean, all of the games on this list are super solid. I'd be very excited to play any of them. Any questions before I move on?
Yeah, do you remember when I told you to play Ghost of Tsushima? We were talking in Discord, and I was like, hey, you should play Ghost of Tsushima. And you're like, I'm going to play Paper Mario instead. Forever.
Are you just going to hold that over my head, like, forever?
I mean, I might.
You hold a lot of grudges, Peaches.
I'll stand behind your decision, though, JP, because that was a game tease playthrough of all three of us.
Yeah, exactly. It's not often that we all agree on a game we want to play. That's honestly, that's probably why it got backlogged.
Peaches, one of us. One of us.
Google
play
gobble,
our games.
Google gobble.
I am extremely surprised that Paper Mario ended up being a czar game from like all of the games that I hear about him playing. Paper Mario ended up being one of...
Paper Mario and the Origami King was fantastic.
Czar's got a very soft spot for Nintendo games, especially old ones. I used to love the Paper Mario series.
All right, are you guys ready for the next game?
Ready.
Give it to me.
All right, so the next two games are ones that I bought alongside Cyberpunk with the money that my bandmates gave me. Shout out to my bandmates. The first one of those is Doom Eternal.
Oh.
Naturally. Okay.
So, yeah, it's just another game that I have not had an opportunity to play yet. What is it that I can say about Doom Eternal?
It got robbed at the Game Awards.
Yeah, it didn't win a single award at the Game Awards. It didn't win a single award. And that's ridiculous, because I don't think it should have won Game of the Year by any means. But
God, no. Best soundtrack,
though. Yeah, the soundtrack. Like, I don't need to have played Doom Eternal to know that the soundtrack was probably so lit.
That's like the big draw, too. I feel like that's a huge draw to Doom Eternal, is how great the soundtrack makes you feel while you're just slaughtering demons.
Oh, yeah. It's when parents talk about video games their kids shouldn't be playing, they're talking about Doom, baby.
Oh, yeah. I recently beat Doom Eternal, and it is just a masterpiece of a game. It really is.
So, Doom Eternal, first-person shooter. You're in hell as a Doom guy, going through hordes of demons, this, that, and the other thing. Heavy metal music, blood, gore, guns, all the good stuff. Is there a story? Yes. Does anyone know what that story is? No. Does it matter? Hell no.
It's hard to beat a game that gives you a passive weapon as a chainsaw.
No kidding. Gears of War, or not Gears of War. Yeah, Gears of War. Gears of War didn't even pull that off as well.
No, in Doom Eternal, it's literally like, oh, you need some ammo? Use some of your chainsaw fuel to go hack a guy to pieces, and he explodes into ammo.
Exactly. So this takes place after the events of the 2016 game. If it helps at all, I did play and beat the 2016 Doom. Loved it. Thought it was fantastic. There's really not much else I can say about Doom Eternal because, I mean, it's Doom Eternal. Like I said, the story's not really there. People don't play Doom for the story. They play it for the amazing gameplay and for just feeling like a badass.
Couldn't agree more.
Exactly. So we've got a Metacritic score of 87 from the critics and an 86 from the users. So that is incredibly consistent. And like I said earlier, I feel like that's a testament to how the game is. But obviously, I will let you guys be the judge of that. So before I move on, do you have any questions? I know I didn't give much of an explanation, but what else can I really say about Doom Eternal?
I think you're just in your brief definition.
I mean, I guess the only thing I can say is you might be able to go back and play Cyberpunk again. Who knows?
Would or maybe I can get back into Octopath Traveler.
Wait, okay, no, hold on.
Yeah.
Maybe you should just move on to the next game.
Maybe I should. Or I could go back to Octopath Traveler. I'm just saying there's options. I'm just saying there's options. There's options.
I'm slamming the vote button for Octopath Traveler right now. You can't see it.
All right. Let's see if you guys can identify the theme of my list after this next game. Once again, I bought this with the money from my bandmates. It is Hades.
Oh.
Things that were nominated in the Game Awards this year.
Yes, they were the 3 games. Yep, that's it. The 3 games that were nominated in the Game Awards that I did not play. Because obviously I played The Last of Us Part 2, as you could tell from my 2-hour rant about how everybody's stupid.
Yeah, and you guys thought my stonks lecture was boring.
Ooh.
Oh, no, that's totally fair. Let's see. And yeah, I played Final Fantasy VII R and Animal Crossing. I played Animal Crossing. You know I love Animal Crossing, but yeah, Yup. But the other 3 I did not play, and that is the theme of my list, is like the leftovers from the 2020 Game Awards. All right, so what is Hades? Hades is a roguelike action RPG video game developed by Supergiant last year. You control a player named Zagreus, I don't know. He's the prince of the underworld who's trying to escape the realm to get away from his dispassionate father, Hades, and reach Mount Olympus. His quest is supported by the other Olympians who grant him gifts to fight the beings that protect the exit from the underworld. He is also helped on his quest by notorious residents of the underworld such as Sisyphus, Eurydice, or Patroclus. God damn it. Fucking Greek mythology.
Those Greek names will never be easy to read, buddy.
Jesus
Don't worry.
Christ. The game features 4 biomes or locales in the underworld. Okay, so Hades, if you've ever heard me talk about the game Dead Cells, has a lot of the same premise of that game in that, you know, it's a roguelike where you're jumping around and you're running around, although Dead Cells is more of a side scroller. But the premise is when you die, you know, you get as far as you possibly can, right? And you acquire better weapons and better moves every time. But if you die, you return to the start with none of your loot anymore, and you just kind of keep going until you can actually get through the underworld. Again, Hades was one of the games that was nominated as the Game Awards. In fact, of all the games that were nominated, like, if there was anything that people were the most mad didn't win, I'd probably say I saw it come from Hades. It's just, people absolutely adored this game.
Didn't it win Indie Game of the Year? And wasn't it actually on the docket for overall Game of the Year? Like, wasn't this the very first time?
It was definitely nominated for Game of the Year, and I can't imagine anything beat it for Indie Game of the Year.
So yeah, that's the thing, is that, like, unlike Doom Eternal, which didn't win any awards, Ghost of Tsushima won a few things too, but Hades, I believe, did get they definitely got a little bit of credit. Let's see if I can find it real quick here. Hades won the best indie, but so Witches won award. They also won the best action game that year. So it does have credibility to its name there. And yeah, I mean, that's all I can really say about it for now. Obviously, I haven't even started this one, so I don't know too much about it.
What's the Metacritic score?
All right, so on Metacritic, Hades has a user score of 8.9 and a critic score of 93. Again, not too bad, and both of those are fantastic, to be honest. So there you go, boys. You've got Doom Eternal, you've got Hades, you've got Ghost of Tsushima. Fight! 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 Come here!
All right,
get over here! So, Octopath Traveler? Huh?
Octopath Traveler.
Octopath Traveler it is.
You know, maybe it wasn't such a good idea for me to join the podcast. I feel like
my blood pressure has risen quite substantially since coming here.
I've never felt so attacked in my life. But anyways, you know, a game that's been on my mind a lot recently is Castle Crashers, and so my pick is for the game that's most like Castle Crashers, Hades. In the loosest of terms, it's like Castle Crashers.
What the fuck is Castle Crashers?
Oh, you don't know what Castle Crashers is?
No, what's Castle Crashers?
Only the best, God, was it a Newgrounds game?
Like, yeah, I think so.
Or Newgrounds Behemoth Game Studios.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, it's just a 4-person side-scrolling beat-em-up where you play as like medieval knights in redonkulous scenarios trying to rescue princesses and then fighting with your co-op partners to the death just to kiss the princess.
That does sound like fun.
Oh, it's such a good party game. And I love that you relate Hades to Castle Crashers just in the sense that it is a phenomenally made indie game. But honestly, my vote was already for Hades as well. Just based off of the types of games that JP likes to play. And I mean, I'm sure it's more or less a quick indie title that has a gripping story and, you know, good enough side-scrolling platforming that JP just absolutely adores. I think there is no other competition other than Hades.
And I feel like it's important to give credit to the other games where credit is due. Obviously, Ghost of Tsushima is a great game that JP should eventually get to. And obviously, Doom Eternal is a good game. Like, I haven't played Doom Eternal, but everything I've heard about it is nothing but positive things.
Yeah,
but
it's so good, but it's frustrating as all hell. Like, Doom Eternal is wicked hard compared to the reboot predecessor.
Wow, really?
Yeah, no, it's kind of a rage game at this point, even just on like normal setting.
I love rage games.
Well, that's too damn bad because you're playing Hades.
I ain't even mad. I'm really excited.
I think Hades is just it stands out even in like the huge category of indie games. Like, it stands out too far above indie games to not be picked. Whereas like Ghost of Tsushima and Doom Eternal, while great AAA titles, are they exceedingly better than their like closest competitor? I don't think so, right? I think Hades is exceedingly better than its closest competitor.
And that's just the thing though, because even no matter what we say here, our opinions are mirrored from the Game Award votes, because like this was the first time I think in history we have seen an indie developed title compete against AAA titles on the most coveted award of the year, the Game of the Year. No, it didn't win, but fuck, an indie game getting nominated for the best game that was made this year, that is nothing to shake your head about.
Yeah, that's a solid point.
And especially since, like, I mean, it goes unsaid because, I love the Game Awards. I think they're fun, and it's a spectacle to watch. But it goes unsaid a lot of the time. Like, the games that win awards at the Game Awards, it's due to a lot of behind-the-scenes lobbying and stuff like that ends up being, like, where, awards get sent to. And
I knew that was the case.
It's kind of shady. And, I mean, I'm not saying that, like, Last of Us 2 didn't deserve the awards it won, but it does kind of make you call into question what should have won where. All things being even, Hades likely could have come away with Game of the Year.
I will play Hades. I'm very excited. Before we wrap this up, I actually had another themed list, and I wanted to tell you guys what it is and see if you can guess the theme.
All right.
Yeah, hit me with it.
All right. Get ready for this. It was The Binding of Isaac, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and the first Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, I know the theme.
What's the theme?
The Game Tea Podcast.
Yeah, it's your guys' favorite games that I'm never gonna touch.
Yeah.
If I'm being completely honest.
That's fair. You probably should not touch The Binding of Isaac because it's way too much content.
Wait. Why is it Knights of the Old Republic and not like Mass Effect 2 or The Witcher 3?
And we are out of time for this episode. Look, nothing against Knights of the Old Republic. I picked it up on a whim, but okay. Real talk. Cue the sad music. Real talk. I just got done having COVID. I have 9 credit hours in grad school. I'm still doing the podcast, and I'm still doing band. I need a game where I can play it in short bursts. I was terrified that you were going to pick Ghost of Tsushima.
Damn. Can I change my decision?
No! No, you may not.
Let's get Zach on the phone, see what he has to say about this.
No.
I feel like Zach would pick Hades too. I mean, we just tripled down on Hades.
That's true. He fought tooth and nail every category that Hades was in for the Game Awards.
He did. He was a huge advocate for Hades, which I think says a lot about it too, because Zach's not usually into indies.
The game speaks for itself. I mean, the audience is speaking very loudly for it as well too. It's an incredible game.
All right, boys. Well, we now have some gaming to go do, so I think it is time to end this episode. Is there any final notes? Did we learn a lot about each other? Is it about the friends we made along the way?
I'm happy with the game I'm gonna play.
I'm excited to play Hades, guys. I really am.
I'm still mad at Octopath Traveler.
Lols.
I can't wait to play Octopath Traveler. That's the game you guys chose for me, right?
Lols, sure is. Get on it.
Can I sign out early?
No. All right. That'll do it for this episode of the Game Tea Podcast. We will see you all in the next episode.
You just got your Game Tea.
Later.
If you like what you heard today and you're looking for more ways to get your Game Tea fix, check us out on Patreon. With bronze, silver, and gold tiers starting at $2 a month, there are several incredible rewards you can receive for supporting the show, such as a follow from us on Twitter, access to a monthly Q&A session, an invitation to our private Discord server, and even bonus episodes of the podcast only accessible to patrons. Your donations will be used to make the show even better. The link to Patreon is in the description with our social media, so go check it out. Once again, thank you so much for listening to the Game Tea Podcast.